What is going on, all of you amazing gamers out there in the world? I am Mega so thank you for checking out this YouTube video, whether you are a new or returning viewer. Appreciate you spending the time here. And today, just wanted to talk about a quick little topic that is kind of interesting me as someone who's not like super invested in these kinds of games, but I wanted to kind of, as an outsider, kind of talk about my perspective on the whole situation. Wanted to talk about pretty much two different game models that can apply to the same types of games sometimes, and that being a live service game versus yearly releases of said games. Now, obviously very different models in terms of different games there, but they can be applied to kind of similar games and then has been done in the past and sometimes simultaneously, as we'll get into here in a bit. I do want to start first talking about live service games because I'm not a huge live service game player. I'm the kind of player that likes to play like short, quick, story-based games and then move on to the next thing, right? There aren't a ton of live service games I've played. I occasionally play Fall Guys. I've occasionally played Multiverses. I tried Fortnite for 2 seconds, maybe. And it's an interesting model because on the one hand, there are some things about it that I kind of feel like are predatory a little bit. It really depends on how they're implemented, especially with like battle pass mechanics, microtransactions, cosmetics, all that sorts of stuff, because sometimes they're not bad. Like I hear from players that certain ones are better than others. This shout out to the gamer. This is their top 14 best, it's not objective, but best live service games. Helldivers 2, is that considered a live service game? Let me know in the comments below. I want to say it's a kind of that model, but I could be wrong on that. Rocket League was an example of a game that was not live service, and then Epic bought them out and made it free to play. Same thing with Fall Guys, actually, which I'm not. It's tough because I'm not the biggest fan of, but I feel like, I mean, the player count for these games, I'm sure, skyrocketed after it went free to play and became a live service game. So honestly, like certain games, I feel like it can help bolster their performance. You know, I think live service, just because of all the microtransactions and like how many have gotten shut down over like the last even couple of years, it's been a ton that have just gone completely dark. I think it gets a bad rap, that game model, for just how predatory it can be, which is totally fair because a lot of these games, I mean, for example, Multiverses, like you got, it's one of those cases where you can play it fully free, but you have to really grind to unlock certain characters in that game. At least that's the one I have experience playing. Fall Guys is also not great. I mean, it's mainly just like cosmetic stuff, so it's like whatever. It's not a big deal. Whereas characters are a little more of a big deal in a game, like especially a fighting game like that. So it can be pretty predatory, but if it's done right, I think it can actually do really well. And the nice thing about having, I think the big pro to having a live service game, it's tough for a lot of these companies to maintain. I mean, we heard about how Sony canceled so many of their live service projects. They were going to go full in on that and then decided to pull out a lot of them. Now we have Concord coming up. Oh, I meant to look up Concord actually. Where it's tough to maintain and it's tough to keep a player base. I mean, we've seen with Concord very recently. Let me look up Concord open beta numbers. I want to see the player count. I know it's not good for Concord, which if you don't know, peaked at 2388 players on Steam. I mean, I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if that's a good number. I mean, Forbes is saying it's concerning. And I know you had to like buy into it a little bit in order to, the closed beta, I think you had to buy into. The open beta, I'm not even sure. I think that originally was you had to buy into, and then I heard Sony like made it free to play or something on PSN. I don't know. Definitely correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong. I don't know fully about this, but it's a little concerning, right? There's a lot of resources that go into creating and maintaining these live service games. And if you're not consistently coming out with enough content, we've seen time and time again with all these live service games, they just get taken down and they're not profitable anymore. So it's, I mean, like everybody's trying to be like a big like Fortnite-like game. And I mean, even Fortnite, we've heard sometimes at the back end, it hasn't been, I mean, it's still continuing. They're still making money, but I think with all the licensing deals they do, I don't know how much profit they're actually making there, but I guess enough to keep it going, right? They must be. So it's one of those things that's like really tough. Genshin Impact. I mean, I hear good things about Genshin Impact, but that's another one that like they keep churning out content. I feel like every Game Awards, every Jeff Keighley event, we have some new Genshin Impact trailer or Honkai Star Rail, you know, in the Hoyoverse. Like they keep pumping out characters and storylines and content for that, which seems like they're doing really well with that. But if you can't do that, I have no idea what that one is. Let me know in the comments below. Oh, Path of Exile. I didn't know that was live service technically. I don't know if these are all live service or it's just based on the gamers' opinions here. I don't know. But like, yeah, it's definitely a model that's tough to keep up with. But I think the nice thing about it, I feel like the silver lining, I mean, yeah, companies see it as like a moneymaker if they can maintain. I feel like a lot of companies rush in to create these games and not even have the resources to maintain it. Sony figured that out eventually and pulled a lot of their projects. But if you can maintain it, like having one, I could see as a player, assuming the microtransactions aren't too predatory or like cosmetic only, just like having one game. You know what I mean? One centralized platform that you focus on and just like go into. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to worry about like, oh, I have to buy a new game every 2 to 3 years. It's just one centralized kind of hub, which I guess kind of makes sense. I know we hear Sega doing their whole super game initiative. A lot of people are wondering if it's going to be like live service with their different IPs, which could be the case, and maybe they want to have it just be like a hub for all Sega games. That could be possible too. Of course, there's games like League of Legends, which have continued to steamroll along. World of Warcraft. Well, except World of Warcraft. Do you have to pay for that? Is that free now? Let me know in the comments below. World of Warcraft, Francis, Honkai Star Rail. Sea of Thieves is doing great for Xbox. GTA Online's been huge. No Man's Sky kind of had a comeback with their updated content, which is crazy that like a game launches in a horrible state. I mean, same thing with Final Fantasy XIV. When that first launched, people did not like it, and it took them with the Realm Reborn version to really completely change the narrative. Same thing with No Man's Sky, and now they're more popular. Well, I don't know if I want to say more popular than ever. Final Fantasy XIV, yeah, I don't know about No Man's Sky, but and there's still more that are coming out, and they want to keep you playing. Destiny 2. Okay, yeah, maybe, I guess Helldivers probably isn't a live service game. I don't know. I'm not sure. Definitely let me know in the comments below. But, I mean, Destiny 2 is one of those things that they just had their final shape expansion not that long ago as of this recording, and, like, are they going to move on to a new game? I feel like it's tough to transition from an older live service game to a new one. Like, look at the whole Overwatch situation and how pissed people were about that, right? Just that transition. Because, like, you have such an established base with a lot of content in your current game. So to transition that whole player base to a new game, that takes a lot. You know, so that's another tough thing. But if you can keep people hooked and going, I mean, it can be a constant stream of revenue. Assuming you have enough content, you can have one centralized hub with just new. It feels new a lot of the time. Like that's what I hear about Fortnite with like all the different modes they add and the zero build and all that kind of stuff. Like that can be good. In other cases, it can't be good. Now, two areas I really want to talk about this specifically. Call of Duty is the big one, right? Because, for example, we have kind of two avenues of Call of Duty to compare now, because there's Call of Duty Warzone. I wanted to look up the Steam DB player counts for this. Seems pretty high. I'm sure they have new updates coming out and stuff. Like people, all-time peak 2 years ago, like people are still playing. 58, really? Oh, okay. It's kind of mixed, but like I feel like you're gonna have that whenever there's a live service game that keeps constantly updating. So people seem to really like Warzone in terms of having like that kind of live service version of Call of Duty, whereas 2023, when we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, and I guess to be fair, this is the campaign. People have been saying this is the worst campaign. This is the IGN review. Shout out to IGN. I heard almost unanimously the campaign was garbage. I think the multiplayer was fine, but still like nothing crazy good. When you have Call of Duty games like this coming out every year, I mean, especially the multiplayer, like you don't need that. I mean, the whole thing is that, of course, now Microsoft, I mean, Activision Blizzard, they want money. And so they're going to try the yearly releases to have you pay in $60, $70 to get the newest Call of Duty game. Which, however, will be kind of changing when Xbox puts the newest Call of Duty on a Game Pass. That's going to be a bit of a game changer. So I'll be curious to see if they stop with the yearly releases overall, or if they just, I don't know what they would do. So Call of Duty is one of those instances where, like, I feel like FPSs, I feel like having it be a live service game, I feel like it just makes sense, right? And like, yeah, it's not going to last forever, probably. There's going to be a point at which it shuts down, but assuming it can be sustainable enough, like Warzone seems to be, like, it should hopefully go on for, like, the better part of a decade, you know? Whereas, you know, when you have, like, the campaigns, like, you could even just update the live service game to have new story modes. Like, you don't need to have yearly releases this is speaking as someone who's not a Call of Duty fan. I've not played any Call of Duty games, but, like, looking at it from the outside, I'm just like, this is crazy. What I can speak to is Pokemon games as a Nintendo fan, which those games, I mean, they're not quite yearly releases, but it's still one of those cases where they release a little too frequently. Now, I'm not saying Pokemon should go live service, but I think there is definitely something to say about taking your time developing a game if you're going to make it a standalone affair. Recently, this is the other thing I wanted to talk about. There was some game, what was it, like College Football 25 or something, that apparently sports fans very recently are kind of raving about being like one of the best football video games in a long time. This is the EA homepage, but people are apparently saying the long-awaited payoff. Shout out to Polygon. Apparently, this is supposed to be really good, and it's been a decade-long wait between college football video games. Now, of course, Madden games, they still come out with every year. Those are the yearly releases, and I think those are also a prime candidate to be live service games, because especially because it's football, it's baseball, it's basketball, it's whatever sport. It's the same sport, just update it each year with the new rosters, because that's the big thing, is like they have a new release, they have the new like all-star player on the cover of their game, right? They've been doing this for forever at this point. It's like, yes, they're just EA, all these other companies, Konami with their weird, creepy-looking soccer game. They just want more money. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to release these games $60, even maybe 70 at this point, every year to get you to buy new copies. And it's like, that's ultimately why they're doing it. But like these, especially, even more so than Call of Duty, I would say, are prime to be live service games. It just makes sense because it's the same game every time. Well, speaking as a casual sports fan, right? It's the same core game of football, basketball, baseball, with established rules, soccer, hockey, established rules. You could just keep updating the rosters. Now, then again, you have like college football that comes out every once in a while. That's like, okay, yeah, maybe once in a while. There was the Top Spin game that came out. If you're not going to do it every year, I mean, that's fine. Just like every once in a while, do a new updated version, maybe with new updated mechanics and stuff like that. But if you're gonna do don't do the yearly releases. Do a live service at that point, in my humble opinion. This is an article from Brian Shea, written 2022 over at Game Informer. And yeah, the annual release model, it's the same thing. Between Call of Duty, between Pokemon. Not that Pokemon does do annual releases, but none of the main games. So like, thankfully, hopefully they don't start to do that. They really, I mean, I know with Pokemon, it's just a lineup with the anime and everything and all the merchandise, but it's like, come on. Yeah, wait for a sale to play last year's game, which is crazy because then it's like you're not getting the most updated roster. Like if you follow sports, a lot of sports game players more than likely follow the sports on TV as well, I would imagine. Not all of them, I'm sure, but probably a good chunk of them, a good majority of them. So why would you wait for a sale on last year's game that's not going to have the updated roster? The players could have definitely been traded and switched teams by then. You know what I mean? So that's I hate that mentality for sports games specifically. Just have it be live service, have it updated. You should, honestly, they should just have like all the available rosters. So like if you wanted to play as a certain player from, I don't know, 2017 when they were on a different team, like you go for it. I don't know. You know what I mean? I feel like that's a way to do it. It's just like, NFL 22 took the advantage of revamping its entire scouting system. Like, yeah, like with these games, you can just make updates within the age of the internet, in the age of live service games, where we can create patches and DLC. Like, just do that for a live service game, introduce a patch. Yeah, exactly. And like have a game last like 5 to 10 years. Assuming it's sustainable. I mean, a sports game, I think, totally would be sustainable. I don't see why not. I mean, granted, I'm not a businessman, so I can't fully speak to that. But like, from a consumer's side of things, which I am speaking as now, it's like there are places for live service games. There are places for yearly releases. The yearly releases, I think, I mean, I guess yearly releases overall, I just don't really like. Because, like, you need to allow a game time to cook. I mean, even if you're having, like, multiple different studios, like in the case of Call of Duty, working on different games, franchise fatigue's a thing. I mean, you will have, like, hardcore fans who won't get fatigued, but, like, with a lot of people, especially if like you're trying to get new players to jump into a certain gaming franchise, they're gonna be like, where do I start? There's a new game every year. Do I bother even buying a game this year if there's gonna be a new one next year that's gonna be even better? You know, like jump in with something like the Warzone seems like a good way to jump into Call of Duty. You know what I mean? From a casual perspective, I should say. You know, have a constantly updated live service sports game, right? I feel like that just makes it. I don't know. MLB The Show, is that a yearly release? Let me know in the comments below. I have some friends who play that and they really enjoy MLB The Show. I don't know if that's like a yearly release as well. It probably is, but let me know. You know, that could be a good candidate for like a live service game where you just constantly update it, you know, with new rosters and everything. So I don't know. I can't really see many use cases for having a yearly release, you know, unless they're completely different games. But if they're completely different games, I feel you don't want them to be rushed. You know, that's what we've seen with Game Freak with Pokemon, which is why I bring that up, because, you know, if you're going to do that, you should take the time to develop your games, and releases every year. I don't know if that would be possible. Now, maybe there's an example I'm forgetting, so let me know if there is a good example for yearly releases of games in the comments below. But like sports games, Call of Duty, I mean, honestly, most first-person shooters, I feel like, especially because you want to keep a thriving community going, if you can maintain that live service, you know, model, I think it is a better way to go. You know, I mean, yeah, you're getting less money up front from players, not spending 60, $70 on a game every year, but like, I don't know. I feel like having that from a consumer side of things, I feel like that's a lot more sustainable for us, you know, to not buy these games every year and also just to have a centralized community, a centralized platform to play these games. You know, we've seen it work out with certain companies. Now, a lot of them don't, but we've seen a lot of them that do. So I think there's a way to do it right. So as long as you're careful about it and you have a continuous stream of content planned, then you're good, you know? So, which Suicide Squad definitely did not have. That was an example of a game that shouldn't have been live service at all and should have just been single player. But, you know, it doesn't work for every game. But there are certain games where it does work, and I think, honestly, I would say is preferable personally in some of these situations. But that's going to do it for this video. I don't want to make it too long because I'm not super knowledgeable on the topic, but I just kind of wanted to share my thoughts as a casual perspective from the outside. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, especially if you do play a lot of live service games or if you do play the yearly releases of Call of Duty, the yearly releases of these sports games. Let me know like what you prefer. I mean, sure, you're kind of used to the model you're in now, but like, would you prefer to switch up? You know, definitely let me know. And otherwise, hey, I will catch you all on the next video or live stream. And until then, take care, keep on gaming, enjoy your sports and your Call of Duties, fans. I'm probably never going to play them, but hey, I respect it. I respect the hustle. I'll see you later.